Right, I think I'm ready. Are you guys ready? Cool. Let's rock and roll. So, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's time for another episode of the Bearded Fen podcast. So, I decided to have a conversation with just a couple of dudes all the way from Phoenix, Arizona. And guess what? They've got their own podcast. And it's called J.A.K.D. J.A.K.D Podcast, which stands for Just a Couple of Dudes. So, Erik and Frank host this podcast. And they've been following me and listening to my podcast. And I've been following them and listening to their podcast. And we decided to hook up and do an episode together. Now, we had quite a long conversation, all 2 hours of it. It was actually quite an awesome conversation, and there was so much to talk about, and I don't think it's going to be the last time that we do an episode together. But I decided I would spare you guys just a little bit, and I would split it up into 2 parts. So in this episode, I'm going to bring you part 1. In the next episode, I'll bring you part 2. So without wasting any more time, here's Frank and Erik. So you say you guys use Google Hangouts? I mean, geez, I can't remember when last I used Google Hangouts.
I just use it for work. It's okay.
All right.
Yeah. And I work as a RN or as a nurse, so I really don't do Google Hangouts and all that stuff for work. I just go in there and I work on a ICU, so I just take care of patients. I don't really ever have to do meetings and stuff like that, so it's nice.
Yeah, I just take care of patients. Nothing serious, eh?
Yeah, exactly. It does feel like that.
So okay, so
hanging out with people, it feels like.
So you said you're a nurse and you're working in teaching, right? Or in a school or something?
Yeah, I'm actually. I do. I work at a high school in the dean of students. Dean of students right here, man. Yeah.
So
he was the mischievous one growing up.
All right. So just from a medical point of view,
growing up, and now he's the dean.
All right. So with a medical point of view, I mean, what's the vibe like with the whole corona lockdown and that kind of stuff? Are you guys locked down there, by the way?
Yes and no. We're not really locked down, I wouldn't say. No, we have a stay-at-home order. We have stay-at-home orders, but the U.S. is just it's different all across every state. Yeah. Okay. Some of them actually. This was in Louisiana. I was reading about how they'll fly over with like a drone and like a microphone, and they have microphones throughout the city that would when it's time to not be in. It's a coronavirus curfew. Granted, there's Jersey, Texas, and Louisiana for sure. There's a couple other states where they have this. But yeah, here in Phoenix, it's actually been pretty chill. In fact, our hospitals, there's some hospitals that have been getting full, but our hospital is seeing record low patients, because people aren't going to the emergency room and people aren't getting exposed actually. And so we've had to close down whole units at the hospital on that. Okay. We've been having to done an ICU. So we're kind of different than what you've been hearing about in the media, I would say.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, what are the sort of infection numbers in Phoenix? Are they high or are they? Because I see New York is taking a bit of a hammering.
So New York's getting eviscerated. So in comparison, I guess I'd say New York City, I think, was over 100,000 infections. I think it was like 150. In Arizona, the last check I saw was about 2,700.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, just over 2,500.
Yeah, sure. That's hectic, eh?
Yeah. And another point of view, my roommate's fiance, she works for one of the best hospitals in Arizona, and she said that it is like a ghost town. Like they prepared big time, stopped all elective surgeries. They prepared huge for numbers, and they're getting none of those numbers. So it's really eerie because you look in the media and it's like they're talking about opening. They actually in the Arizona, local media, they're saying that they're going to open new hospitals just for coronavirus, and our existing hospitals are like empty. Yeah. Absolutely. That's crazy.
That's quite a strange thing, because I mean the similar thing is happening here in South Africa, because I mean we've got a total lockdown. In other words, restaurants are closed, all businesses are closed, the malls are closed. The only things that are open are pharmacies, supermarkets. What else? There was something else that was open. Schools are closed.
Gas stations. I'm sure.
Gas stations are still open. So yeah, but they enforcing this sort of lockdown. Everyone needs to stay at home. You're only allowed to go from your house to the supermarket, kind of thing. You know, if you're traveling anywhere, they'll stop you. They want to know where you're going, why you're going there, and like you can't buy alcohol, you can't buy cigarettes.
Why is that? What is the logic behind that? Because if I'm going to be stuck at the house, I want to be able to enjoy a beer.
Absolutely. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll know that as South Africans, there are certain things that we enjoy. One is braai. Okay.
Braai.
Mm-hmm. Boerewors.
Yeah, explain what a braai is, because
it's a barbecue.
we want our people to hear it too.
It's a barbecue.
Yeah, it's a barbecue.
Yeah, it's a barbecue.
Yeah.
But in South Africa, braai is part of
but
our
it's
heritage.
better.
Sorry?
Calling it a braai is better.
Yeah, we call it a braai here. We don't call it a barbecue. So a braai is a South African thing. It's part of our heritage. Boerewors, which is meat sausage, which is also part of the thing, and obviously you need a beer. So it's braai, boerewors, and beer, and all of that stuff is, except for the boerewors, is banned. But I went to the supermarket today, and they've actually cordoned off the section where you buy briquettes and charcoal and fire lighters and tongs and all that kind of stuff.
Really?
It's all cordoned off. So, like,
what I don't understand about that is yesterday when me and my dad were actually looking at the map of the numbers around the world. South Africa had an alarming low number.
Exactly. But, that's the point that I wanted to make, was that we've had this lockdown. It's been 2 weeks or whatever. They've extended it for another 2 weeks. So until the end of April, there's no businesses. Yep. Most businesses are closed. Mm-hmm. And yes, we've curbed the sort of, like, we flattened the curve a bit. But the interesting thing is, like what you were saying about the hospitals, is that they've been preparing for this influx of people, and it's not happening. It's not happening.
Yeah. It is definitely interesting, and it to me, it makes me, what kills me actually is, I mean, I get it that, by us being in lockdown, we're helping prevent the spread of this disease, but to me, I feel like the media, at least here, is really just trying to inspire a lot of fear. And I feel like a lot of the people here are acting so irrational because of it, because the verbiage that they use, it almost sounds like propaganda-ish to just make people scared. We literally had a guy here in Arizona. He drank, what was it? It was like a fish tank cleaner because it had the what's it called? The
hydroxychlorine or something like that.
Hydroxychlorine in it or whatever. Chloroquine, yeah, or something like that. That was it was thought to be like a cure for the coronavirus. He ended up dying from it.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Like people are like people are acting so irrational, but then, you look around and you're like, not that many people are sick. Why are people acting so irrational? Yeah. Why are people buying like 70 rolls of toilet paper at a time? Why does the coronavirus make you shit your brains out? Why is this happening? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And so two things came up to me.
Yeah?
Yeah. Two things came up to me. It was, one thing is that in 2018, I believe Anthony had told me this, in 2018 in the United States, there was 80,000 cold and flu deaths in our flu season. 80,000, which is way, 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 way higher than whatever COVID-19 is right now for the U.S. And on top of that, what was the other point? Well, it's just crazy to me.
Yeah, what was the media? How come the media wasn't addressing it then?
Yeah.
That's my thing. Like, I don't know. I'm not that this is a very real reason. It is dangerous and stuff like that, but to me, it's just odd the behavior that he is inspiring out of people, like encouraging, I guess.
Yeah.
That part to me is the weird.
Yeah, no. Well, I
'Cause,
suppose when you're in a leadership position, this is one of those things you don't want to get wrong.
That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is true.
Ask Donald Trump. He'll tell you how to deal with it.
yeah, there we go. He always does. He's got an answer for everything, that's for sure. Oh, that is hilarious.
So now, like,
I will give it. Go ahead.
No. You carry on.
I was just going to say one thing I will say is that there are so many unknowns about the COVID-19. So I do understand them being like extra cautious and just as you don't want to get things wrong. So I do understand that. It's just I wish that there were more voice, instead of just it's like they're almost trying to inspire panic. I really honestly feel that way. And it's evident in just how people are acting.
And the second thing I wanted to bring up, so it was the 2018 numbers, and the second was that we're at a 5-year low in the U.S. for cold and flu season. We're actually at an all-time low, and then this happens.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But even with the coronavirus numbers, still at a low.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, from a school point of view, is the schools are closed or are they still operating?
Yeah, so it's like no one can go to school. However, we're offering everything online. So we're actually doing, like I said, we do Google Hangout. We're using Google Hangouts. Teachers are using it next with kids. Everything is online. Kids are expected to log in, do all sorts of stuff.
Sure.
Is that happening? Kinda.
Yeah.
Kinda.
I work at alternative high school, meaning we do credit recovery. Kids who don't make it in a regular high school, they come to my high school, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
So a lot of our kids, they're just, they don't even have access to Wi-Fi. So we give them a Chromebook or a laptop and get on Wi-Fi. So the schools are closed though. And actually in LA County, and basically anything that happens in California winds up coming to Arizona like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
LA County extend closures to May 15th.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be close for the end of the year.
Yeah. So we're thinking our country's riding this out until June.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. No, I think we're also talking June, July here as well, from a school point of view, because I've got 2 teenage daughters. The one is in a school
nice.
The one is in a school that, like you said, is she's not in a mainstream school. She's in a class of 13, and they've got Chromebooks as well. So they're doing the Google Classroom and they're getting all their work via that. And my eldest is in South Africa what we would call a private school. And they basically doing the very similar thing as well with Google Classroom. They don't use Chromebooks, but they're using their PC to log into Chrome and into Google, and but they have been working quite hard, I must admit. But I mean it's difficult for them because my oldest,
and that's what.
My eldest is in matric, so she's in grade 12, last year of school, and this is the kind of thing that happens. So she's got to deal with it.
Oh yeah, that's what a lot of our graduates are dealing with, but they got to finish their classes and it has to all be online, and so that's kind of just the cards they're dealt. And I was like, look, you're not going to there's no get out of jail free card. You can come back next year, or you can just get it done online right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But there seems to be a bit of a stigma in South Africa amongst the teenagers to repeat a year. I don't know. Is that the same kind of thing in the US?
We have quite a few. Most of the kids that come to our school are actually repeating their senior year.
Okay. Well, yeah, like I don't see this.
Some of the grades. I was going to say some of the grades are repeating like a year, and then it's interesting, me being in the medical field, we're seeing, they haven't been
A month, yeah.
it's been about a month, and they're actually graduating doctors or med students early so they can help with the coronavirus.
Oh, really?
So it's like we're kind of, yeah. So they're like not even finishing. I mean, I think they take like a few exams, but they're graduating early so they can help assist with this. So we're seeing really both sides of the token, where people are just graduating early, and then we're also seeing where it's like, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to repeat a year.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
it's kind of like, to put it plainly, it's kind of a cluster. Honestly, it's crazy because I mean, we were just, as a nation, actually, let's just say as a world,
The whole world economy.
we were not prepared for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's crazy.
Yeah, I think for me here in South Africa, the fact that they've extended the lockdown, was a bit of a blow. Look, I mean, I'm fortunate. I work in IT, so I continue working. I can work remotely. I can be anywhere as long as I got broadband. I'm okay. But I've got lots of friends that are in the music industry, that are tattoo artists, hairdressers, got their own businesses, catering, that kind of thing. I mean, they're all fucked at the moment. I mean, for them to hear that there's another 2-week lockdown, I mean, it changes the dynamics completely for them. And, I feel bad for them,
Yeah. My girlfriend, she has 2 jobs. Her primary job is fine. She works from home, and thank God for that. She can do everything remotely and online. But her second job that she was doing on the weekends, where she made some good money, to pursue other stuff she's doing, was a bartender, and she made really good extra cash as a bartender. And she's out of that job completely. And luckily for her, she was already thinking about wrapping up that job anyways. But, she's out a lot of money now, and it's like, it just sucks. And then she knows people who that was their primary job.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy, yeah.
And I mean, we're getting, the U.S. Congress, we passed a stimulus package. So a lot of Americans supposedly next week, in the next 2 weeks, are going to get, depending on how much you made on your taxes, $1,200 check to help.
Yeah. Is anything going on like that and there in South Africa, or no? Like a stim package to help out, to help assist?
Yeah, they are talking about that, like small businesses, small to medium sized businesses that, but not for the informal worker. The bartender and that kind of stuff. I don't think so. So, like for instance, like the malls and strip malls and that kind of stuff, where those guys won't be expected to pay rent for their shops that are not generating money. But those like more the informal kind of people, like the tattoo artist, the bartender, the waitress at or the waiter at the restaurant and all that. I don't think they're going to get much relief, not from our government.
Yeah. I will say, if you just want to look at the bright side of things, for me, I was able to record and maybe do like one episode, one podcast a week. And ever since I'm at home, obviously, I'm just going in, trying to do as much as we can, create as much content as possible, line up as much stuff, be able to do this kind of stuff like with you even. So from that perspective, from a creative content perspective, we've been able to just back out, content, tons of it.
I feel busier than ever, actually, because of that.
Yeah.
Because we just decided, with this coronavirus going on, we're just gonna, we can decide to be, sad about it or whatever. It's like, okay, this is happening no matter what. But we just kind of made decisions like, what? Let's stack hay while we can. Let's get to work, at least on, our side hustle, And it's been really cool and exciting to stay busy in a time where, it's really easy to be stagnant. I did want to ask though about when we were talking about the stimulus packages and stuff. What do you feel like this is going to happen to South Africa's economy, and then maybe even further? What do you think? How everyone being out of work for so long, how this affect the world economy?
So, like for me, in South Africa, I was really disappointed that they just extended the lockdown without having some sort of modified lockdown that allowed the wheels of the economy to start turning, even if it was slowly. Look, obviously I'm not an expert in this, and I'm looking at it from the outside, and I take it from the point of view that I'm okay because I've got a job and I'm working and, it's business as usual. But like I said, I've got lots of mates that are in a different situation, and I was hoping that when the curfew, because our lockdown is officially until next Thursday, but now it's been extended beyond that. And I was hoping that they would come up with a modified lockdown and say people that are vulnerable, the elderly, people with pre-existing conditions and all that kind of stuff, the lockdown applies still to you. But the younger generation that are more healthy and all that, you're more than welcome to go back out into the economy and start, working and generating income, and, that the economy could tick over, because our economy cannot afford, in my opinion, to be stagnant. We in a country where the rand dollar exchange rate affects us dramatically, and the exchange rate has gone for a ball of shit. It's never been strong, but now it's even worse than it was, and that's on the back of the COVID-19. Our country's just been downgraded by Moody's, so it's going to have a long-term effect, in my opinion, on the country. Yeah, I was hoping we were going to come out with a creative solution to the situation, and not just take the Uber safe option of just extending the lockdown.
Yeah, man. When you talk about the rand to dollar exchange rate too, when I was in South Africa, I was in Cape Town in 2015 for about 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Too, baby. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I gotta break out some whiskey. We're gonna do a shot of whiskey.
That can't see Finn right now, bearded Finn, he is pouring a healthy glass of whiskey right now. I'm loving it.
So you were saying about South Africa?
South Africa. I was there in 2015, Cape Town for a couple months. And the exchange rate, I forget what it was then. But what a lot of people told me, and this is just from talking to just random South Africans, people from all sorts of different perspectives and walks of life, and this weird little theme came up. I don't know if you agree with this or not. It's really not my point of view either. It's just from what I heard, is that people were like, so when we had apartheid, it was horrible, right? Apartheid was bad. However, our rand was really strong. It was almost at one point, I think, 1 with the dollar almost.
The U.S. dollar, yeah.
It was really strong, but apartheid was terrible. We're post-apartheid, the country's open, there's no segregation. However, our economy is horrible, our exchange rate is terrible. South Africans told me that a big issue is the immigration from all over Africa coming down to South Africa to get jobs, because one of the only stable countries in the whole continent, really.
Crazy damn.
And I just was like, man, what a thought. Like, apartheid, terrible, economy strong, apartheid, good, but the economy's not as strong, or at least the money, the financial part of it isn't as strong. And I just thought it was the craziest, like the weirdest kind of complex and dynamic, and I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, look, I grew up in apartheid. I'm much older than you guys. I don't know if you know how old I am, but I was still in school when the apartheid was still the thing. It's apartheid only ended after I'd left school, and wow. Growing up, I didn't even know about apartheid. You just accepted that those people live there and we live here. And I was fortunate to go to a private school. So the guys that were in terms of diversity, in terms of race and backgrounds, racial backgrounds, and all that. I was going to school with these people. I was going to school with black guys, with coloreds, with Chinese, whatever it was. I was going to. I didn't know any. I was living in a bubble. Okay, it was only when I got into high school that I actually realized what was going on. And obviously, my opinion is that it was the wrong thing. But I think the difference is that when apartheid ended, what happened after that? So from 1994 to 1999, we were in this sort of the honeymoon phase of apartheid ending. Mandela was the president.
We won Rugby World Cup, right?
Sorry?
And that's when you won the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, 1995. I mean, we were fucking... I'm getting goosebumps now. You're talking about 1995 World Cup.
Yes, I love it.
I mean, we were in this... I mean, we were in the bliss moment, to be honest. It was... Yeah. It was like... I mean, like we're the nation. We in the nation. We've come out of apartheid. There was no civil war. Everyone's happy.
Heyday, as we call it in USA.
Yeah, it was fucking amazing, to be honest. And
yeah.
But eventually in 1999, leadership changed. Yeah, I think the decisions politically were not the greatest. I mean, we had a president that was ousted like last year. He was so corrupt it was not funny. And, all of a sudden things were starting to slip, there was corruption and, and I think the confidence in the country has dissipated to the extent that the exchange rate has started to slip. And I mean, I'm generalizing here and and it's anecdotal evidence, but even the previously disadvantaged people are complaining that the new South Africa is not as good as it was in apartheid. Now, I'm not saying apartheid has come back. I'm just saying that the way that they've dealt with the political situation after apartheid has not been in the best interest of the country, because the people that were poor before apartheid are still poor today. It's not everybody. It's a generalization. And all these situations are complex. And I think every country has its issues. It's more about how you deal with those issues that makes the difference.
Me.
Yeah. So how did you land up in Cape Town?
That was a great answer. How did I get up in Cape? So I really wanted to kind of travel. I had that classic early 20s. I want to travel somewhere. But I don't want to just go on a vacation. I wanted to do some good work. I wanted to have experiences, but I also wanted to give back. So I was just looking, like, where could I go to, maybe volunteer, but also sightsee. And it came down to Thailand, and it was like Thailand, Kenya, and South Africa. And then Thailand actually is someplace I just want to go. Like, honestly, I just want to go chill for like a week at a 5-star resort and just hang out, That's really what it was. And then I'm not going to lie, I was looking at Kenya, and even though there was some really good opportunities there, I was like, I'll be honest, I still do want to be able to have some running water, take a shower and stuff. And so there's actually I don't know if you've heard of Muizenberg.
Yeah, I know Muizenberg very well.
Yeah, so there's some schools down in Muizenberg that are like, very poor schools, very poor community. There's what do they call it? There's a town nearby called Capricorn, and it was really run down.
I know exactly.
A lot of poverty, a lot of crime. Yes, Capricorn. So I was just at a neighborhood about 5 minutes west of there. But the cool thing is I was like, I'm working like 40 hours a week in these schools. I'm hanging out with these kids. I'm doing some really cool stuff. But then I got to go, got to experience a lot of stuff. To go to Cape Town, which Cape Town is one of the most beautiful, dynamic, amazing cities I've ever been to in my life, honestly. Cape Town is awesome. Loved it.
Glad to hear.
And yeah, and then I got to go. I did all the classic stuff too. I did safari, where you just go to some animal range and you see like giraffes and lions and cheetahs and stuff. I did all that kind of stuff too, because why not?
That's amazing. Honestly, that's one of my dreams, to be able to see something like
that. Yeah. But the coolest thing about South is, so to go on this one safari, I signed up with this company, and they drove us. I don't even know where we went. I forget where we went, but it was 2 hours north of Cape Town, maybe even 3 hours. And South Africa is like I'm in like this beach kind of like mountainous area, and then I'm in these like rolling hills. I was in the Wizard of Oz, because there's like these gorgeous flowers and these huge fields, and then we went further, then there was ones, and we went further, then I was in a safari, and I was like, God, this is like the best kept secret, because no one here, from where I'm from, everyone's just talking about, I want to go to Europe, I want to go to the Bahamas, Paris, like, and no one's talking about South Africa. It's like the best kept secret.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
And actually, it was 2015, so it was during World Cup, and South Africa had a really good team in 2015. I think they almost won. They lost they lost New Zealand, or New Zealand had won the whole thing.
Yeah. So I mean,
but they won last year, right?
Oh, you got? Yeah, we did. Hey? So
yeah,
we're the world champions again. Yeah. So
world champions, man.
Do you guys watch rugby?
What was that?
Do you guys watch rugby?
I didn't until I went, and then I watched the whole World Cup, and like I actually really like the sport. I actually have a South African, a beautiful white Springbok jersey. Awesome. I should have wore it today.
Awesome. It's really hard to watch rugby in the U.S. I think. And it is hard to find. It's just not something really available on our TV station. But it's the most interesting sport. And it's growing in popularity here. Like, I have many friends that in college that they played rugby. And it's just awesome because, like, so many friends that played it. And they're just, like, the toughest, burliest dudes.
Oh, like, big, strong.
Not scared of pain at all. Like, I feel like they like it, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like they like the pain. Like they're kind of sick in the head. Every rugby player I've ever met, and it's funny, I get along with them great, but like, oh, they're twisted.
And I just need to make another comment. When I was in Africa, the funniest thing to me, so growing up in America, in Arizona, you're either, you're black or you're white or you're something else, but they're mean, I thought. And so I went to South Africa, and I was talking to this guy who's like, he was kind of like a lighter brown, darker. But to me, I would have been like, oh, yeah, some black guy,
Yeah.
And he was talking about, he's like, oh, all these black guys, this, black guy, that. And I was like, dude, aren't you black? Yeah, like, he's not black. I was like, what?
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I'm not black. He said he was a color.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, you would...
Funny.
I suppose in other countries you call that mixed race, but
yeah,
I mean, like in South Africa, to call someone colored, well, that's actually a race classification, an official race classification in South Africa. I mean, if you were to call someone colored in the UK, or I would imagine in America as well, you'd probably get into trouble.
Probably. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's just like a not. Well, especially nowadays, because people are so sensitive. It's insane. I don't even want to get into it.
I will say this, man. Mixed babies and mixed people, honestly, they're just like the most beautiful people to walk the planet. I feel like they're gorgeous.
No, well, look,
men and women.
They reckon in a couple of 100 years, everyone will be brown. Everyone will be mixed race.
Yes, I've read that.
Yeah,
they were saying that like 100 now there won't be blue eyes. There won't be anyone with blue eyes.
Except for genetic anomalies.
Like 100 and 200. Yeah, except for like, genetic anomalies. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my
girlfriend.
girlfriend.
I have blue eyes, so it's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a white guy. My girlfriend is Filipino and Hawaiian. So
oh, wow.
It's just, we're all going to mix.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to make lots of brown babies, eh?
Lots of brown ones,
yeah. Maybe they'll all be immune to coronavirus by then too.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah, 2020 sorted that problem out.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, here's something you don't know. I was actually born in Cape Town. And
nice.
Most of my family live in Cape Town. So I live in Johannesburg, which is 1,400 kilometers away inland. And Joburg, we call it Joburg, Johannesburg, Joburg. Joburg is pretty cool. There's quite a vibe here. There's quite a good social scene. Lots of restaurants, lots of live music, lots of motorcycle riding and all that kind of stuff. But I definitely long for Cape Town. So every once in a while, I go down to Cape Town for an extended holiday. My parents live in Fischhoek, which is just up the road from Muizenberg. So.
Oh yeah, I've been to Fischhoek. That was one of our stops.
Yeah.
We would take a train and we'd get off on Fischhoek. There was this restaurant there. It was what's that cool restaurant? It's like that Cuban guy. Who's the Cuban? The famous.
Well, there's a thing called Cape to Cuba, which is in Cork Bay.
Cape to Cuba.
That's in Cork Bay.
Cork Bay, yeah. That's what it was, dude. That was the coolest little restaurant bar. I love that place.
Exactly. And there's another place called the Brass Bell. I don't know if you went there, which is also, it's on the railway line. On the railway line.
It is. It's literally on the beach. And actually, when I was there, one weekend, the tide came in so insane.
Yeah.
It came into the bar.
Yeah.
And they had to close down half of it, but they still kept it open for karaoke night. Karaoke night at Brass Bell was lit. It was insane, dude.
Let me tell you, Griffin, me and the boys, me and Eric, we've been best friends for just over 18 years.
Yep.
And we love us some karaoke.
Mm-hmm.
All about getting bruised with the boys and singing our hearts out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. So how long were you in South Africa for?
I was there for 10 weeks.
Okay. And you're going to come back?
Yes. I want to. I really, really want to.
Listen, if you guys ever make a plan to come to South Africa and you're going to go down to Cape Town, let me know. I can hook you up, places to stay, all that kind of shit.
Oh, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah. I was gonna throw that offer out there to you as well. I have family that owns property about an hour away from the Grand Canyon. Ooh. So if you and your family ever want to come to the Grand Canyon, see the Grand Canyon, see this, there's so many beautiful sites.
Yeah.
To me, that are maybe even more pretty or more gorgeous than the Grand Canyon, that are right around that area, and you would literally have a free stay.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
And yeah.
Well, because I don't know if you guys know, but I ride motorcycles. So if I travel anywhere, I'm going there to ride motorcycles. So
yes, dude. Oh, and dude, Arizona highways are made, especially up north, made for motorcycles.
Awesome.
It's one of the biggest. Route 66 is a huge highway system that is famous for. You've heard of it?
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. And all my family members, we have a lot of family members that ride, really saving for a motorcycle right now. So you come out here, me and you are riding together, all right, buddy?
Awesome. So I got a buddy who lives in Cape Town. He's got 2 Harleys. So when I go down to Cape Town, we often do a ride around Chapman's Peak, Hart Bay, wherever on the Harleys. And
I'll get it.
Okay. What are you guys doing now?
So I was gonna have Anthony go grab some of our. So there's this whiskey. It's a peanut butter whiskey. It's called. I'll show you right now. It's called something whiskey. Knuckle or something like that, but it's really good. I wanted Anthony to try it.
Cool.
And you were sending me in the mood, man. We had a question. So on my last live stream, we did a live stream about what's the perfect kind of buzz. Actually, not the last one, two ago. But for you, just a quick question. What's the perfect you? Like, what is the number of beers or a number of drinks, or what's your go-to for like a really good steady buzz?
Oh, that's difficult. That's difficult.
It made me think.
I'm a seasoned.
Should I share first, and you want to think?
I'm a seasoned drinker, man. I I'm the kind of guy that can knock back 12 beers and still be in the buzz.
And still be in the buzz?
Yeah.
That's good, man. It depends for me. I don't know. Like if it's like a Friday night and it's after I've been up all day working, doing stuff, honestly, I could have 3 beers and I get really buzzed and I could shut down.
But what's the
But if it's a Saturday?
What's the alcohol content of your beers?
Okay, so so the one I'm drinking right now is actually 5%.
Okay. Yeah, so
but usually if I drink a Miller Lite, which is like our light beer, it's like your Cat Light, that's like 4%, 3.5.
Yeah. So the beer that I normally drink, which is called, I showed you the last time, I mentioned the last time, is Vintage Draft.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a Namibian beer. It's made in Namibia, but sold in South Africa. It's 4% alcohol.
Nice.
So that's the kind of beer that's the beer that I normally drink. And I probably could do 12 of those and still be in the buzz.
That's great. That's just like our buddy Jeff. We were asking him that, and we're like, "Hey, man, so what's the perfect buzz?" He's a Marine. He's a U.S. Marine too.
Oh, yeah.
And so he tells us, he's like, I can't get too blacked out. I got little kids, but I'll have a 6-pack or 2 before 5, and then it's cocktails.
Good cocktails after that.
Cocktails all night. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get too blacked out.
I'm gonna get the bottle real quick.
Oh yeah. Go grab the bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. This will be interesting. So go ahead.
No, you carry on. It's going to be interesting. You're going to have a peanut butter.
Yeah, peanut butter whiskey. So I typically, I stick with, just regular old whiskey. I'm interested to see how flavored this is because I don't know if it's going to be sugary or not, so it's not. He said it's not sugary or anything like that. But I will say.
Is that a sheep on there?
It's a,
yeah, it is. To the Misfits, Black Sheep, and Screwballs. That's what it says. That's the caption. So it's peanut butter whiskey. And I will say, you can smell a little bit of peanut butter. It actually smells really heavy on like the butter side, actually. It smells like butter.
Real peanuts.
I said, okay, so it's really got peanuts.
So I hope you don't have a peanut
I just love
allergy.
That we're sharing whiskeys. Yeah. I love that we're sharing whiskeys with one of our new friends from across the world.
Cheers, dude.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh,
cheers, brother.
Well, this is what I love about. I mean, you guys have got a podcast. I got a podcast. This is what I love about having a podcast is that it breaks down the barriers to communicating with people across the world. I mean, I've had podcasts with people in New York, Canada, Australia. I mean, it's just amazing that people can just connect just like that.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. It's my favorite. It's absolutely my favorite part. And then just to hear other people's stories. In fact, I was kind of curious to even like what made you decide to get a podcast. So, what happened, in events before where you're like, what, I want to get a podcast. What made you decide? Because there's just, like you said, we live across the world, but it's just so cool and amazing that we're really just not that different. Like we're sitting here, we're all sharing whiskeys together. Absolutely. And it's like, if you lived here in Arizona or if I lived there in South Africa, we'd be, friends, we'd be buddies. Yeah, we'd be neighbors. Like I love it. It's just a real feeling.
Yeah. So, I mean, to answer your question about why did I start the podcast, and then you guys are going to have to answer the same question. But, so, when I was in school, I mean, it's a bit of a long story, but when I was in school, I used to read a lot of books. So Stephen King, James Herbert, that kind of stuff. And then after school, I went off and I studied and, you concentrated on partying and studying, And,
oh yeah.
and when I, after that, when the dust settled, I tried to get back into reading books and, I really battled to read a book. I mean, I would lie in bed and I'd read 5 minutes and I'd fall asleep. And it would take me 18 months to read a Stephen King book. And I was like, fuck this, this is like too much work, And Stephen King brought out a book which was only, so what I started doing is I tried to read ebooks on my iPad, on my Kindle. And that wasn't really working, but Stephen King brought out a book, and he only released it as a physical book and an audio book, not as an ebook. So I went and I downloaded the audio book, and I was like, I finished that book in a day. And I was like, fuck, this is amazing. So then I was like into audiobooks. So I signed up with Audible in 2013, and I'm reading maybe 1 or 2 books. I say reading, listening to 1 or 2 books a month. And then I know you guys have spoken about religion a bit. So I don't know where you guys fall in religion, but I'm a reborn atheist. Not to
nice. We're an open book, you know.
Okay. Well, I grew up as Catholic. I grew up
quote unquote spiritual. So
no, I grew up as Catholic. So anyway, but the thing is, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with religion and trying to understand where I fell with religion, and I came across a guy by the name of Sam Harris. I don't know if you know Sam Harris, and so he's got a podcast. So I started listening to his podcast, and then I started listening to someone else's podcast, and just the sort of audio format just works for me. So in the gym, in the car, on the way to work, 15 minutes before I go to bed at night, while I'm cooking supper, whatever, I'm listening to audiobooks and that kind of shit. And then and podcasts. And then I was like, fuck, I really enjoy this podcast thing. It's like so fucking, it's like almost like liberating in a way.
Absolutely.
You can talk about anything you want. You can talk about anything you want. And so then I decided, no, fuck this. I'm gonna start a podcast. And I thought, well, okay, but what am I gonna talk about? Like, fuck. So like for 2 or 3 months, I was like, well, okay, what do I talk about? But the thing is, I've got quite I'm divorced, 2 teenage daughters. They spend.
Me too, buddy.
They spend. I probably see my kids, and you know, except for the lockdown, I tend to see my kids like every second day or whatever. But I do enjoy my hobbies, and one of my hobbies is riding motorcycles. And so I thought, you know, whenever I go out and I'm riding bikes and I'm listening to local music, because I really enjoy local music, blues rock, heavy metal, that kind of shit. And I like to support, you know, a lot of my buddies are in bands, so I like to go out and support them. But I often have interesting conversations with people. You go out, you're socializing, you're having a couple of beers, you're standing at the bar, you meet someone new, you have this awesome conversation, and you're like getting to know them, where they come from, what they're doing. One guy's got a motorcycle tour company, another guy's got a motorcycle accessories shop, another guy's a tattoo artist, and you know, another guy is a musician. You're having all these interesting conversations, and I was like, okay, that's exactly what I need to do. So I need to have a podcast where I'm inviting these guys that I'm hanging with to come and tell their stories. So instead of us having the conversation in the bar, we're having the conversation at my spot, and it's not an interview. It's 2 guys that have the same passion, just shooting the breeze, you know. Very much like your podcast. I've watched a couple of your live streams. I've listened to a couple of your podcasts. Very, very, very relaxed. I really like it. So, but I mean, I was listening to one of your podcasts. I mean, you guys have been involved with other podcasts other than your podcast that you've got now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I actually started one, my sister, just over a year ago. So we started that, and it was kind of the same. Honestly, I had grown up, always loved talk radio. I don't know why. Sport talk. I could listen to sport talk radio all day. I just loved it. And also listened and read a lot of books and stuff too. And I got big into audio books too. And that was, we kind of share a similar passion for that. And I just thought, I'm like, God, I've had so many fun, hilarious conversations with my friends. And I also weirdly know I'm attached to so many people with cool stories, with good stories, whether it's their life, they know something. And then, but I never could really put it all together. I didn't really know what I wanted to do or how to really go about that until the very first podcast I ever listened to was actually the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, it's, it's the number one podcast in the world. But I started listening to it. And the one that actually I listened to, the very first one ever, as weird as it is, it was literally the episode where it's him, Brian Callen, and Brendan Schaub, and they're talking about like child molesters when they were growing up and stuff. And they're like, it was these funny, crazy jokes. They're all comedians, and I remember thinking, I'm like, these guys are me and my buddies.
No, they were joking about them themselves being molested, essentially.
Yeah,
that's really what it was pretty about.
It was pretty intense, but
but they were making light of it, even though they experienced something. Experienced that.
And the idea to me was like, dang, these guys are just kicking it. And I listened to more and more and more, and I just thought, everyone thinks like I could do one. And so one day I was talking with my little sister, and she was like, hey, I'm going to buy a microphone. I was like, cool, I'll give you money, buy two, we'll start. Same thing. I had no idea how to start, and we just started talking. I started bringing my friends in. That one actually we wound up stop doing. And then sat down with our other host, Frank, one day and was like, let's do it, man. We done a few together. It sounded really good. And we kind of just sat around, and I was like, what do we call it? And we're doing all these different things. And one was like, well, we're just a couple dudes talking. And then I was like, dude, just a couple dudes.
Oh, fuck.
And I was like, we can call it J.A.K.D. And then we just like, let's do it. And then so we just started recording. And Anthony, he was living in Arkansas when I started this podcast.
About 1,200 miles away.
1,200 miles away. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah, the reference. Anyways, and so I always knew growing up, Anthony's one of my best friends. He's hilarious. We have great conversations. Brought him into the whole podcast. And it's like you said, it's just these people, like how many bar conversations have I had that I would have saved and shared with people.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but interesting people I know. Like I knew this guy who he started a foundation because his daughter, he had two daughters, and then his third daughter, she found out when his wife was pregnant with her that she had like 8 different heart congenital effects. Mm-hmm. And so it was going to be like the likelihood of this baby living was very low. She actually still gave birth like a year old, I think, and in that year it was nothing but crazy hospital visits and all sorts of stuff. But they started a foundation for that, and then they're actually raising to give back to send kids who want to go to nursing schools, so, because they want to support nurses. And I was like, God, I just know these kinds of people. Like, how can I take that experience and share it with people?
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
I'll kind of similar to both of y'all. So I feel like the first podcast that I got into was Stuff You Should Know. I don't know if you've ever listened to it or not. Just expert views or just little like known facts, little, it's kind of like fun facts, really. That's what we'd call it. And one of the best, and I've had multiple people tell me that they're like, you know what, Anthony, there's one thing about you. It seems like I just like everyone. Unless you give me a reason that I don't, like you, or you do something to, where I lose respect for you, I just see so much value in everybody, and what I realized growing as I'm, becoming older and older in age is that like really everyone is an expert in their own field because everyone has walked a different path, and so these stories of how they got to where they're at or where they were and where they are now, their stories can really fit somebody else that is going through a similar path, And so we were able to, with this podcast, able to try 2 different things where it's like we can expose these qualities out of somebody, and then they can also talk about the little things that they know about, that they're, because the thing is we're all kind of experts or interested in some things. But a lot of people just don't accept that they are, or they don't realize that they are. You know, and I love bringing that out of people and talking to them about it. And and so, like, to me, this has just been so fun where I get to just talk to people across the world, you know, people that are these experts, and I get to learn myself. And so to me, it's just been such a fun thing.
And another big thing, we just had this guy on. He wrote the book. I think I still have it over here. Tea Time with the Reaper. It's all about death and dying and stuff. And
I saw that.
Yeah. And so one thing about that is, I mean, even for you, man, you said you have 2 daughters. I'm like, if I died, I have all this recorded stuff, audio, video that my family can have of me. Yeah. And it's like, you know, God forbid, if you passed away, your daughters would have how much countless hours of you that they could watch, they can listen. You left it behind for them. I just think that that's so awesome.
You know what? You just hit the nail.
I was going to say one more thing about you, Beard. One more thing I want to say about you too is I've heard a lot of your episodes where you're talking about the coronavirus and COVID-19, and it's like, in a way, you're a historian because this is such a huge thing. There's going to be so many books, so many stories about this. You know, you know, our grandkids are going to ask us, you know, what did you do during the 2020 pandemic? You know, what did you, Grandpa? What did you do, Grandma? And, you know, and here you are documenting it. You know, it's like we're all little historians in a way, and it's just so exciting, man. But anyways, go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No. I'm so glad you were listening to those episodes. But you know what I wanted to say is that shortly after I started the podcast, I actually realized that I was leaving a legacy behind for my kids. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you know, when I was growing up and I had grandparents and great grandparents, you know, you were looking at photos and, you know, Grandpa this was doing that and Grandpa was doing that and whatever. And I actually, after a couple of months, I actually realized, like you say, that I was leaving a legacy behind for my grandchildren or great-grandchildren to look back on, you know, what was my grandfather like or my great-grandfather like.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, think about this, man. Point, how incredible would it be to think, like, down the future when we're gone, when we're totally gone, your grandkids, great-grandkids, whatever device it is, the iPhone 72 or whatever it is, they could literally have a little file with your bearded fin thing logo.
Your beautiful bearded fin.
Yeah. That they click on and be like, what was my great-grandfather like? They can click on it and they have access to 100,000 hours of you telling wisdom, sharing stories, drinking whiskey. Absolutely. How beautiful is that?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think
I love that.
I didn't think of that before I started the podcast, but I did realize that a couple of months. I've actually got quite a personal story to tell, which I haven't really told. I wanted to write a book, but I've actually changed my
Us too, man. Us too. We were just talking about this. Yeah. Go ahead, man. Go.
Yeah, so... and I think I'm actually going to do a video series about it rather than a book. But anyway.
Oh, dude, I'll tune in big time. And I'll tell you what, man, if you don't do it, I'm going to give you shit for it. And I'm going to message you until you do it.
Absolutely.
Because I'm all about people just pursuing it, you know, and just getting after it.
Right, so I thought I would stop the conversation there. That's around about an hour. As I said, the next episode will be part 2 of the conversation. So I hope you're going to tune in for that. And that, my friends, is the end. I'll catch you next time.